Hello everyone and welcome to the talk Cloud Native Game Development, lifting your studio to the cloud. I hope I pronounce it well. You choose a long, I do have the sound of the live. Yeah, that's okay. You choose a long name for the conference. Thank you. Johannes Ebner. Hello.
Hello, nice to
And
meet you.
welcome to Adam. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Johannes, you are a global gaming tech specialist, EMEA at Microsoft, which is one of the partners of the event. So just to remember you, the talk will last for 1 hour, including 15, I just lost my number, 15 minutes of Q&A at the end, after 45 minutes conference. The public, you can ask questions during the talk, and Johannes will answer during the dedicated time at the end. And we will start now. Johannes, it's your turn.
Hey, welcome to my talk. Again, I'm Johannes Ebner. I'm a technical specialist in EMEA region at Microsoft for the global black belt gaming team. My team consists of 3 people actually only. We're a highly specialized team. Delia is a specialist. She is the commercial part in our team. Andreas and myself are technical specialists and helping you and our clients with technical challenges. And our mission as a team is really to make you successful with Azure. We are all ex-gaming veterans. We know how to write code. We have shipped games. I myself have been working as a backend developer and as a technical lead. And we travel all over Europe and help our customers. We're very aligned with our internal gaming teams like Xbox and of course Azure. And today I want to be talking to you about the modern game studio and how you can take it on. First, let's quickly start with gaming at Microsoft. What is gaming at Microsoft? We have a few components to that. Of course, one is Microsoft Azure, which is our cloud, the gaming cloud that powers the world's largest streaming service, Project X Cloud, and of course, the production and running of the biggest mobile AAA and PC and console games. With Xbox, we have the largest console gaming ecosystem, or the largest gaming ecosystem with Xbox and Xbox on Windows, and of course the Game Pass. We have the go-to game development IDE with Visual Studio, and most of the gaming, except maybe mobile, runs on Windows, though we have a big stake in mobile gaming as well with Game Pass on mobile now. So let's get started. What have we seen last year? What we've seen is a pandemic-driven development. A lot of us have changed how they work, right? Through the pandemic, there was a lot of impact in how our industry works, how it is defined. And we have seen an increased demand on games, like even last summer, Verizon, a US telecom provider, reported a 75% increase in gaming traffic, which is huge, right? And we've seen this with our customers who have had the most successful year ever last year. We have seen game development shift to the home, right? Where many of the content producers, of everyone working at a game studio are now working from home. And this has had some impacts as well, right? Because we have seen capacity restrictions, for example, in bandwidth. Fun story from myself is that I moved to a new house, and before we moved in, I checked, and I had like 500 Mbits download, right? And when we moved in a little bit later, I was only guaranteed 300, and now I'm lucky if I can get 200, right? And when the pandemic started, this was really bad for me because I was already working in home office before the pandemic. Then travel restrictions hit. And as I've said, my team is really working very closely with game studios, and we usually travel a lot and have this very deep personal connections. And this has completely stopped, right? And we don't see as much industry events anymore. Like addon has moved to the internet as well, right? And it's really tough for everyone because the personal connection is missing. As I said, most of the work has shifted to the homes, and there are a lot of benefits to that, right? I mean, most people don't like a commute. I myself find it really awesome to not have a commute. And we also saw the shift also have less need on office space. I mean, most game development studios still need some office because of their on-prem environments, like servers, build machines, whatnot. But many could scale down or have already scaled down, saving money, right? And management effort, of course. What is really great about working from home is that you can now tap into a global talent pool, particularly if we talk about France and the French language, which is so prevalent in the world, right? And it is so much easier to now onboard new talent from other cultures than ever before. And this not only makes it easier for companies and for people to join because you don't have to care about visas and immigration, and people don't have to leave their countries just to work in a great job they really love. But there is also one other thing that really enriches the gaming ecosystem, is that the cultural influence, the cultural diversity is really increasing. And then we have also seen a productivity boost. That might not be true for everyone, but I've seen studies that show 13 to 47% increase. And within Microsoft, where I can directly see this, and we have studies internally, there was a massive productivity boost as well. However, that also leads us to the challenges of working from home, which is definitely, I just said it, like the personal thing is the personal well-being, for example, right? Because work is potentially all around you all the time, right? You still have the flexibility, which is great for myself, right? I have 2 kids. I can play with them whenever time allows it, right? But then also in the evenings, work is around me, and I might check a mail and be full in work mode again. So I had my burnout a couple of years ago. I know better how to cope with it, but this is not for everyone, right? And it certainly is something to watch out for. Then devices are a challenge here as well, right? Artists definitely need drawing tablets. That's not gonna go away anytime soon, I think. And mobile developers need a wide array of phones and tablets, right? And that was easier to scale within an office because you could share devices and stuff, right? But if you're really far apart, this does not work at all. And this also is a financial constraint to some indie studios, right? Because they need to buy a lot more devices than before. Bandwidth, I already touched it. I mean, I'm living in Germany. I don't know about France really well, but Germany is really a developing country when it comes to bandwidth, right, and digital infrastructure. And then, of course, the communication and relationships. I've been talking about this a lot before. It is really affecting everyone because particularly in gaming, I think, because it is a highly creative and collaborative environment to build games. So when we see these challenges and the benefits, and having walked through this pandemic, and we're not really sure when it ends, if it ends, and how the future will be. And we always hear this new normal thing, that home office might be here to stay. And I think for a lot of people within the gaming industry, the home office is here to stay. But also, it's not necessarily that, but you might want to be able to work from wherever you are and want to manage the resources much more easily. And so I think that there is an opportunity for the game studio, for the modern game studio of the future. And that game studio is really cloud-based and enables you to work from wherever you are. In the modern game studio, there is, I think, 3 core pillars. One, that is, I think, maybe the most important thing to be able to work from anywhere, are workstations. Code and assets are the integral part of the product, right? This is what you build, and this is what you essentially output. And services are the glue that put everything together and take care of building your game, for example. When we look at these individually, and let's have a look at what the requirements are for those. For workstations, I think GPU-powered workstations is the only thing that you need, or is what everyone needs. Let's put it that way, right? You not only programmers, engine users, and artists need really powerful GPU-powered machines, but also everyone else, whether you're an accountant or working in HR or marketing, right? Because everyone in a game studio usually plays games, either their own games or the games of other studios, right? Because most people in the gaming industry really love games and want to play them. And when you have these workstations, I myself have worked in a IT capacity before, and I know how crucial it is to be able to centrally manage my infrastructure, my workstations, because it is an absolute pain to maintain individual machines. And you only want to pay for what you use and when you use it, right? Because the traditional approach to workstations is really buying a biggest machine for a couple €1,000 and use it for as long as you can. So the investment is a good one, right? And still then you need to pay down the taxes for a couple of years. At least that's how it is in Germany. I think in France similar. And this is essentially capital that you cannot have in a liquid form, and you have therefore some sort of investment risk. And then high-speed networks is really important because particularly in game development, you have these really, really large assets that you need to transport, and you need to have a fast turnaround time. Looking at code and assets, there are the most important thing is probably repositories, whether this is a Perforce or a Git repository where you can upload and version your code and assets. And then you also need an artifact storage where you put down other files, let's put it that way, right? There is always a lot of other stuff you need to somehow manage in terms of storage. Security is also very important factor. We have seen CD Projekt Red having their code stolen, their assets stolen, being extorted by releasing that product, right, to the public, which is a major damage to a studio, and you really don't want to have this happen. And then of course backup, because you want to save all that investment, all the assets you have created in case of a disaster. And last, services that are really essential to build your game, and you want to have this as fast as possible because you want to have a fast turnaround time for QA to improve your game, to find the fun in it. And then of course test, because that really is glued together. You need to be able to test your game as fast as possible and as best as possible, and with the necessary flexibility and potentially scale up and down your QA team as necessary. And then distribute. You will you're having internal testers, you're having external testers, maybe target groups to be testing, and then essentially a publisher you need to distribute to, or end users via a physical or a digital medium. And you want to analyze how you use your infrastructure and how much money you put in producing your game, and also in terms of infrastructure, not only personnel cost and things like that. And last but not least, manageability. I already said this with workstations is really, really important to really have everything tied together. When we look at the benefits of this and how a cloud environment can help facilitate this, what are the benefits? A cloud environment is really good in providing you high-speed networks. It is globally available, so you can use your workstations, your service, and have access to code and assets from wherever you are really fast. You only pay what you use, and you usually only use what you need until unless you make it otherwise. You have a much higher security, because if you work with Microsoft Azure, for example, we have all the security expertise from extremely large ecosystems to run games on, and other software. Think about Windows or Xbox. We have the largest attack surface, not only with the cloud, but also with our two basically operating systems that are so prevalent that we get the most attacks, and we have probably the largest security teams taking care of improving the security. And with a cloud environment, with a modern game studio hosted in the cloud, you can onboard staff quicker, which is really important, I think, for game projects, because you often scale up and down, and you really have the means of just having a VM image, and you can provide everyone a workstation within minutes with everything set up just as they need it for your work environment. When we talk about financials, there is also a shift from CapEx to OpEx. So from an investment capital you spend right now that you don't have anymore, because you just pay per hour basically. And with this comes a lower investment risk, because all games succeed, right? And it's every game makes a profit, and that is unfortunately not the case, right? A game is major investment risk, and so everything that you can avoid investing into the longer future might be a really good investment. And with this comes, as I said, higher flexibility and liquidity, and this, or through the liquidity comes higher flexibility to scale your teams up and down, because let's face it, for a game project, we typically not need every role for the whole project, right? And then you want to also, particularly if you produce multiple games at the same time, you want to properly allocate for the whole cost to the appropriate games or cost centers to have a good overview of where your spending goes. There are also a few challenges. Give me a sec. There are also a few challenges with that, particularly drawing tablets, for example, or in general devices, right? Artists will need drawing tablets. You need to have them with you wherever you are. Xbox dev kits, or for that matter, any dev kit for any other console, right? These are physical devices, and they usually need to stay in the studio for security reasons. Xbox has a great thing where you can actually stream your Xbox dev kit, right? So you can download the build to the Xbox and then stream the output of the Xbox, and that is part of bigger Xbox streaming story. with phones and tablets, it is still difficult because you need to be able to scale that. However, in Microsoft Azure, we do have a solution for that. I'll get back to that in a minute. And PC configuration are just a mess because there are so many potential configurations, but you still need to test at least a few major ones, right? So to sum it up, on-prem infrastructure is still required to some degree, at least for now. So how do you get to cloud-based modern game studio? We of course think that Azure is the absolute right thing for that. We have the most regions worldwide with over 60 data centers, or 60 regions, which in fact consist of multiple regions, multiple data centers that protect you from regional outages by disaster, for example. We have more than 200 kilometers of lit fiber optic and undersea cable systems, which are our own network. So if you input data into Azure in Asia and take it out on a US data center, it will not even travel through the internet, right? It will be only traveling through our network, which is a huge benefit for particularly for game developers, right? Because you have an extremely low latency and high bandwidth network for your games and for your work environments. This is even more important, I think, when you build cloud directly, build games directly in the cloud with a modern game studio. Ubisoft, for example, uses Azure and the Azure network for Rainbow Six, and they made a very conscious choice because of the network we provide. For workstations, we work together with NVIDIA and AMDs to bring you the latest cloud-built GPUs. On the NVIDIA side, we currently feature the NVIDIA T4, which is a Tensor Core GPU that even supports RTX. On the AMD side, we feature the MI25, and they are, particularly in comparison to previous generation, extremely low cost. And all of our virtual machines run Windows and any Linux distribution, either natively, or you can build your own images. So for example, you could even build an Android image. However, we do not support ARM hardware just yet. So we'll see whether you can do this in the future. For graphics workloads, you can't use Windows Virtual Desktop really. If you're using a 3D software or an Unreal Engine, for example, it is just not good enough to stream this high fidelity pictures, right? With colors, with refresh rates and all of that. For this, we want to fall back on real experts, and for that, Teradici has a marketplace offering in Azure that provides you exactly that to be installed on your workstations to really have this fidelity. And for everything that does not need such a workload, you can still use Azure WVD, which is a pre-made and managed solution of Windows Virtual Desktop. On the code and assets side, we have GitHub and Azure Devops. GitHub is the go-to place for code repositories, really, and project management. More than 500 million developers, I think, use GitHub every day. And GitHub and Azure DevOps both support and are really good at providing you project management tools, repositories, of course, and build systems. And the Azure DevOps even provides a little bit more, which I get to in the services section. Azure Storage is really your go-to place to store all the other assets that you do not want to put into a repository. We offer long-time archive storage, cold storage, and really frequent access hot storage options for either files or blobs. You can mount Samba file shares or Windows file shares, for that matter, directly in the cloud, and access this with very low latency. And there are even other things like queues and table storages included in that. And of course, with code and assets, as I said already, you need this high throughput network we provide with our Azure networking. On the services side, we of course offer the VMs, but included, for example, in Azure Devops is Azure test plans, which provides you a system to very easily build structured test plans for your QA engineers to be able to structurally to do structured testing and do reporting on the task plans. With Visual Studio App Center, we provide you a solution to not only distribute mobile applications like games, but also a huge test cloud of actual real devices, whether this be Android or iOS, so you can actually test on physical devices without owning them, right? Which is super critical in a distributed work environment. With Azure Active Directory, we can then offer you to build single sign-on solutions or have a single sign-on solution for your workstations, for services, whether this is in a cloud-only environment or even a hybrid environment, whether this is on-prem or on other clouds as well. Azure Arc is the management solution then to, because we already said there will be probably some on-prem environment left for compliance reasons or for technical reasons. And Azure Arc can really manage your VMs, Kubernetes and database deployments, whether they are in Azure, on-prem, or even on other cloud environments. And the same goes for Azure Security Center. It gives you the a single pane of glass for to assess your security posture, remediate problems, and also gives you an overview of your compliance, which is, I think, particularly in Europe, very important. And this can also extend to on-prem and other clouds with Azure Arc. And when we talk about builds, everyone knows that building an Unreal game takes forever. It can take very long. And here we work together with Incredibuild, who have built a marketplace offering where you can increase your or lower your build time manyfold by using the capacity of Azure. In fact, we have done a joint effort with Incredibuild and the Coalition, famous for the Gears of War series, who scaled the builds over 700 cores on Azure and cut down a 4-hour build time to around 40 minutes. And a colleague of mine has actually done a similar experiment, even reducing that time to a couple of minutes. Bandai Namco, for example, has also, and there's a video on the GameStack Live channel on YouTube. GameStack Live was a conference we held in April, where they showed how they built a cloud-native CI/CD pipeline for Unity games. And Game Studio in Japan has actually moved basically the entire production to Azure in the cloud environment. And all of them use Azure DevOps and Active Directory to build their games, to secure their games, and virtual machines, not only for the builds, but for the workstations. When you've built your modern game studio in the cloud, we really want to enable you to take it further. And for this, we have built the Microsoft GameStack that really puts everything together, all the products that are gaming specific into one product line, kind of. That includes a backend as a service with Azure PlayFab, Azure itself, of course, Havoc and Simplygon, which you probably know. Simplygon is for reducing a poly count, for example. And we've put everything together to make it easier for you to work with and to better integrate everything. Also, a few examples of that using that is Colibri Games, for example, now part of Ubisoft, who my team has worked with to really implement all of the backend for the best performing games. everything hosted on Azure with Azure App Service, data lake storage for analytics, event hubs to ingest data, and IO Interactive, who have shipped Hitman 3 now, built on Azure. Next Games has also used Azure with Service Fabric and Azure Functions to really scale out their backend and using our data solutions to have the best analytics they can get to work and monetize on the game. So a quick recap and outlook of what I said and what is to come. What is available now is that we have really good VMs with really good performance, with very good performing GPUs. We're even using them in game streaming, and we work together with partners on QA solutions in the cloud. We have the code and assets hosting that you need either directly in GitHub or Azure Devops, or with our partners that work together with us on the marketplace. We have built-in distribution services, either internally or externally, with Azure Devops and Incredible, for example. But we want to take it further, right? We want to invest more into gaming, because we, as Microsoft, have seen that drive in the gaming industry. We have already quite a big investment with all of the game studios we own. For example, the ZeniMax acquisition we just did recently, the Gears of War franchise, and many more. And then all these other products like Azure that really suit the needs of the gaming industry, and of course Xbox. And for this, we have created the gaming ecosystem organization that is increasing our investment in game development. And this organization has nothing less as a goal as reimagining game production itself, right? As I just tried to explain, we want to build the modern game studio. We want to develop cloud-native pipelines to accelerate the production, help with the AI-driven testing, and provide gaming-ready virtual desktop solutions. And so what we will be seeing a lot more investment and a lot more speed in this area. And I can't wait to see what your experience is. And to get you started right now, similar to ID at Xbox, we just announced Azure ID at Azure. You can check out azure.com/ID to bring you the best experience with the cloud to you, help you with tailored information, help you with best practices from Microsoft Cloud solution architects or in particular game specialists like myself, and also give you access to extra resources and of course some monetary benefits like Azure credits to really get you going on the cloud. And with that, I'm a little bit early. And I'd like to ask you to achieve more with Azure and our gaming products. Thank you.
Thank you, Johannes. We will move to the question. So, waiting for people to put questions in the chat. I actually do have one. I'm not sure it's super super focused question, as I'm not a dev. But do you think there is a size for a studio to think about like doing this cloud environment, or even a 2-person studio can benefit from it?
I think absolutely any size of studio can benefit. Potentially even more so as a two-person team, right? Because there is a super low investment in doing that, right? I mean, you can even get started right now with even without ID at Azure with a couple of credits and check it out. Go to azure.com/gaming, get a few credits and try it out. But the machines are rather cheap, particularly when you look at the GPU VMs, right? You can get started right away We have everything in place for that. And you can shut them down whenever you don't need them, so you don't produce any cost. You can set it up to automatically shut down at a specific time, for example, right? So there's really nothing stopping you, and I think particularly with small studios, it's a really good fit.
Yeah, and I guess with the pandemic, like challenges, as you said, it's becoming more and more interesting to plan this ahead and not to wait to be confronted to the problem before thinking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And think about really small bandwidth at home, right? If you have everything in the cloud, you don't need to shift around those huge amounts of data. You don't have to download gigabytes of assets every now and then, for example, to test your build.
Yeah.
You can do everything in the cloud.
I do have a question from Isabel. Can you give more details about test plan? Does it include all type of tests, unit code tests, functional tests, etc.?
I'm unfortunately not a big expert on that, but we can have a chat afterwards, and I'll get you some resources on that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Isabel, you can maybe send a message to Johannes, and he will be able to give you the info about this. We also do have a question from Nicola about the dev environment. Is there any dedicated tool to do a remote development, or it's just a remote desktop? Desktop. Oh, this is hard to pronounce.
Yeah, we just launched Visual Studio Codespaces, for example, where you can actually do development in the browser, right? If you're just coding, for example. If I understand this right, so there are also instances of you could use Visual Code online, for example. And if you need the beefy workloads, I would totally recommend the actual workstation, right? And if you don't need a GPU, that's absolutely fine. Then you can even save money on that as well, right? And use one of the other virtual machine types we have available, which are usually either CPU focused or memory focused.
Okay, thank you.
I hope this answers the question.
I don't know. I will wait. Like for me, it is, but maybe let's wait for Nicola answer, because I think he is the one in the capacity to say it.
Yeah.
So no more question yet on the chat. I will wait for a few minutes to see if there is any other shy person asking for something. Okay. And yeah, like Nicola said, it's okay. Easy now. Thanks. Do you also work with a lot of indie studio, or is it more for big company for now?
I personally work rather on the larger challenges, right, with the bigger studios. But there's absolutely nothing stopping me from working with indies as well, right?
Okay. So yes, and we know like Microsoft is working with a lot of indie studio, mainly with like Xbox, Game Pass, etc. So I guess it makes sense also too.
Yeah. And my team is very well connected, particularly with the Xbox folks, and we work together really closely with the Xbox development partner managers to really facilitate the connection between Xbox and Azure.
Okay. So I don't think there is any other question for now. So like as you were a little bit early, it's perfect. Like I will have time to take a coffee. Thank you for that.
Wonderful.
And you
My
will
pleasure.
have can too. So I guess you are available for any meeting if anyone have other question or is too shy to ask in front of everyone.
Yeah, I totally get this. I often don't ask myself and rather reach out afterwards. Please do so. LinkedIn, Twitter, my blog, whatever suits your needs. You can also shoot me an email at johannes.ebner@microsoft.com if you feel fancy, and I'll get back to you.
Okay, so thank you, Johannes, for the talk. It was a pleasure to talk to you and to welcome you at addon. The next conference is at 4:35 on this stage. So it's in French. Toucher du doigt le portage mobile de Crying Sun by Christophe Sauver, hosted by Xserve. Enjoy! Bye bye!
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you.
Bye-bye.